trying. Anyway.
And you don't want me to do, no.
Yeah. So, but we're not necessarily
right,
working on it. So I'm gonna be saying, I'm recording now. I'm gonna be saying things like stop at home and do that. I don't mean right now.
Gotcha.
So this is the part where I talk more. Awesome. So hey, we learned this note name thing where we were just like, you know, we know the names of the open strings. That didn't take too long to learn. Something about them being open strings made it the thing from kindergarten where you just assign names to shit.
Yeah.
Same thing with us deciding that the third key is the dots. The third fret we got G and C. And it's, you know, like G and C or whatever. That's subsection 1. Just go ahead and humor me and spend a couple of 90 seconds thinking about that. Then without thinking about that, at the 5th fret we got A and D. And, you know, just use your nose or one finger, it totally doesn't matter, whatever. We're just talking about this dot is called G. Anyway, so then a couple times you're going to let yourself go G and C, A and D, and then immediately approach it like a geography test where you just quiz yourself. Be like, which one was C, which one was A. And there was something for you where it's like if you grouped it in 2 notes, you tricked yourself into not thinking about it, not overthinking it. Like if you were like, I'll play C then A, you started doing it. So that might be a you-specific thing to do. But either way, just fuck it. Like if you make a mistake during this, it's going to be an emotional reaction anticipating something difficult coming, as opposed to you literally can't remember 4 dots names. That's the good news, and you won't have me here like with any time pressure. So stop, learn that stuff. Great. While we're at it, we talked about like sharp and flat. This is G, this is G sharp, this is G, this is G flat. It's 1 forward, 1 back, sharp, pound sign, flat, little G. Kick ass, man. So the thing we did with chords was to talk about you know, the 2 types of bar chords that they are, and kind of showing you that you can actually play every chord everywhere already, just knowing these note names that somebody would realistically call out. So like E and D minor. So you know, it's like this is G. I'm a human capo. G and G minor. G sharp minor. A minor. A major. Anyway, so that's the first type, E shapes, where you're on all 6 strings. And the lowest note in the chord, which is also the root, like this is the chord G, that's the note G. And the term root, there's no like part 2 to the concept. We're fully just talking about in a G chord, the note G is called the root. And then in a C major scale, the note C is called the root, you know? Cool, awesome. So there we are. So those are the first type. And then we talked about, you know, A-shaped chords, A, however you do it, and A minor. And so kind of picturing like there's no 6th string. So here's a C, C major, bending the wrong way. Anything but I'm in jeopardy of not touching this string, or I'm in jeopardy of hitting this string. So just some kind of, you just wedge your finger in there uncomfortably. But this is considerably higher degree of difficulty than the other 3. And then, you know, it's like C minor. You know, hey, that's C. Look, it worked. I made an A minor out in front of my human capo. A minor, looks like that. So, and there's no, the next part to this concept, like, you know, B minor, we move back 1. And we talked, so what did we just see? Hey, there, we talked about it as like 12 total notes. This is C minor, this is C sharp minor. There is no note C flat. E goes straight to F, B goes straight to C. Everywhere else, and so there's no note E sharp, there's no note B sharp. So it's like here's C, there's C sharp, here's B, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. So anyway, there we go. Most of the time it's as straightforward as this is A flat, this is A sharp, except E to F, B to C. And we're kind of used to seeing that from like E and F, and you know, stuff with C and B and or anyway, cool. If you forget that, it doesn't really matter, but also not a advanced conceptually idea. Whatever, so you just saw you can play any chord anywhere. The application of this is all kinds of stuff, but the types of things you can do is if you know some like strummy songs in first position, play them with bar chords, you know? If it's like G, C, D or whatever, that's going to be on like, or something like that, which totally, you know, sounds like that, or just anything. Just get good at moving them around and thinking about it at all. Cool. So what do we just say? There's like the E shapes. Like here's A and D. So A and A minor, the A shapes, D and D minor, and D flat minor, D flat major. Cool. So stop, do that. I'm just gonna make a note on your page that it was like 5:50 in your video where I stopped talking about bar chords. Yeah, it's at 5:50. Awesome. So then section, just like really be all kinds of on this before you move on to the other page. So we just talked about learning those 4 note names, what notes exist, and then bar chord shapes, those 4 shapes, and you're just gonna, so. I'd always rather you like finish the first thing we did and not have even attempted the second thing than the whole thing sort of. So anyway, then we moved on. We just talked really into this super easy pattern of the A minor pentatonic number 1, where we used our ring finger there, even though it's inefficient because we're so often bending and bend stuff there. So we wouldn't do that here. Because the type of stuff we do down on the low strings is more like single notey, where we're often bending is exactly here, and exactly here. But anyway, so there we go. That's why we're using our ring finger. Also, when you slide forward, you want to be on these fingers. That'll come up on its own organically later. So the stuff you're doing with this, aside from play Born Under a Bad Sign, and just go up and down, alternate picking. And play it at different frets, go up to like a high fret. A lot of the time when you're soloing, you're going to be more of around that part of the fretboard. Like if you know E without having to think, do some 12th fret shit, for instance. There's a lot of little like E kind of stuff. I don't know, Little Wing solo. Like I could do that for an hour, probably enjoy solo. But anyway, so just like, hey, we use this scale a shit ton, and it is the thing to do. Almost 100% of the time, if like a song starts with hey, you could really safely choose I'm going to be here and do this stuff, and it's going to sound okay, but it'll sound better in a blues song or something in A minor or classic rocky or whatever. This is the A minor pentatonic. The importance of all that later. Cool, so where this scale pattern exists and you understand it just like chords, you can just move it around, and as long as you're not changing the shape you make, it's gonna still work. Here's me to go in G, A. So when it's like it totally worked in there, I just like walk. Cool, so then we're doing like hammer on the way up and pull offs on the way down, emphasizing kind of this index finger economy. And that's the thing, no seesaw. Kind of, so then just noodle against stuff. We talked about Born Under a Bad Sign being in A sharp or B flat. So if you wanted to noodle against Hendrix's Born Under a Bad Sign, you'd be at the 6th fret. Doing like 6-9, 6-8, 6-8, that kind of stuff. Like he's like, or whatever. I'm gonna like totally play that solo after you bounce, because I want to remember the next lick. So fucking there we go. We did that stuff, and that's pretty much what we're doing this time, except for Under a Bad Sign, which part 1. Get you sick at that before you move on. This is our approach to learning shit.
Yeah.
That is a dosage of info where you can learn it and come back to the very first thing we talked about, which is 2 different headspaces: memorization and playing. When you're in the memorization stage, we're going to do things like break stuff into small sections and finish as we go, and we're going to do stuff like eliminate rhythm, just make it a list of things. And I'm just going to make a little note over here that it's at like 9 minutes in your video where we started Born Under a Bad Sign and talking about this, so you can skip to it. So anyway, section 1, just learn at home, not this one. Cool, and this will be your means to like focus on using your fingertips, and we'll force the issue on that more next time by finding stuff that actually has. That was what we talked about, is how like if you wanted to hammer on the 4th string with this note still ringing out, that doing it in this juxtaposition is impossible. It can still be done in thumb over top or classical thumb position. There's just 2. There's this and then there's this. Anyway, so then we did it up on the high part of the scale, which is like. Same, you know, like here's the notes were played. Played those shits again. Couple extras. That's what we got. Cool. And then, like I'm saying, just noodle, do whatever, fuck around with those, move it to a different fret. You have just gotten the tools to play, have something to play in a blues solo in any song that's gonna come up, and most chord changey type songs.
Okay.
Like, you know, if songs like GDC, you just like push up the 3rd fret and play a bunch of that stuff, and it won't sound wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can play every major and minor chord everywhere just by like knowing G, C, A, D, and then maybe if you want to go nuts, B and E, and just using 4 total shapes, those E shapes, those A shapes. Great. So you've been guitar lessoned, and
Awesome.
I will email